Welcome to the show. This is the Angel Room where we talk about angels and spirituality and enlightenment, spiritual growth, all kinds of positive things that are going to help you with communication with angels, with understanding the process, as well as just growing as a person and making progress on your journey. All these good things. So happy to see you with us here live today. And I'm going to start by talking about some things about Archangel Michael that took a lot of research on my part to find these things. So some of you out there probably know it, and for some of you, it's probably going to be something new. So Michael's name means who is like God. And it actually was originally pronounced Mikael, even though now we commonly pronounce it Michael. The origin of his name is the Hebrew name Michael. He's also known as Michael, Holy Michael, the Archangel, and Saint Michael. So some of the ways that Michael comes into play in many different holy writings and teachings and history, it's quite interesting. He's actually one of the archangels mentioned more than most of them are. So it's one of the reasons he's considered one of the primary archangels. The Bible describes Archangel Michael leading armies of angels which battle Satan and his demons, and that's during the world's last conflict. Michael is said to emerge victorious. Good news there. We all like hearing that. Also in the Bible, it is said that Michael will accompany Jesus Christ when he returns to earth. In the Torah, I love it how he just shows up in all of these different religious texts. In the Torah, God chooses Michael to protect and defend Israel. Michael is also described as the great prince who will protect God's people even during the war between good and evil at the end of the world. There he is again, showing up at the end of the world, which can't really be the end of the world if he's victorious. I always think that means the end of the world as we know it. In the Zohar, which is a book in the Jewish mysticism called Kabbalah, Michael escorts the souls of the righteous to heaven. That would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, he seems to visit so many people. I know he's with me and he comes through when I'm doing my spiritual protection for people. I can always tell if there's an archangel who's, oh, I feel energy coming in right now. If I can always tell if there's an archangel who's with that client at that time, because as I'm calling the 4 primary archangels in, one of them will be particularly strong. And in the last week, it seems like it's an Archangel Michael week. So let's see, he's mentioned in the Quran as the archangel that God has assigned to reward righteous people for the good they do during their earthly lifetimes. And it's interesting, they say lifetimes. Now, here's one you may not know. You probably know Joan of Arc had religious visions, but she saw Saint Michael and began hearing his voice when she was just 13 years old. It's just mind-boggling to know she was 13 when this all started, but it was Archangel Michael. He visited her in a vision, appearing as a handsome young man surrounded by angels. Again, angels can come through in a lot of forms. Even though they'll never be human, will never be angels, they can take the form of a human. I mean, I think we've all had those instances, or I shouldn't say all, there is no all or every. Many people, like myself, have had instances where somebody does something amazing for us, maybe even rescues us, and then disappears. And to me, that's one of those signs of a person experiencing an angel in human form briefly. So here's another thing you might not know. The Catholic, Orthodox, Anglican, and Lutheran churches revere Archangel Michael as Saint Michael. And for them, he serves as the patron saint of people who work in dangerous conditions. They need it, don't they? It makes me immediately think of miners. It's like, that's got to be one of the most dangerous professions. The Seventh-day Adventists and Jehovah's Witness churches believe Jesus Christ was Michael before Christ came to earth. And I did not know that before I started the research project. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believes that Michael is Adam, the first created human, and now he's in heavenly form. So there's all these different beliefs, but I love it that he shows up in so many different religious teachings around the world because it's consistent. He's there, he's real, he's helping people, and it's pretty consistent with his role. So let's look at that. What is Archangel Michael's primary role when it comes to us humans, which is pretty much why he's here? His primary role is fighting for good to prevail over evil. Boy, no wonder he's showing up so much right now, because right now there's so much negativity in the world, so much dense, heavy energy, and I've never seen so much darkness in my life as it is going on right now. And people far older than me are saying the same things. So I think that we're not talking about just specific things happening, but just a lot of signs of dark activity, people being kind of overtaken. So Michael empowers believers to become passionate about their faith in God. He protects and defends those who love God, whatever God is to you, whatever you want to call God, because it doesn't matter. He is helpful when courage is needed to resist temptation, resist sin, and when in danger. We all know about that when in danger one, because he's when people call on when we're scared. Like, I've had women tell me that they've been in situations where they're walking down the street and somebody's following them, and they immediately start asking Archangel Michael for protection, keep this away. And like something just happens and they're fine, and that person can't get to them. Somebody else comes in and walks them to their car, or, just kind of out of the blue. So we do think of that. And I know I thought of that when I was in dangerous circumstances myself. Let's see, I don't want to lose track here. His personality, and yes, all angels and archangels have personalities. His is exceptionally strong and courageous, as befits a warrior. He is commonly referred to as being male, and I see him and feel him as masculine, which is why I call him man. He oversees the first ray, which is blue. And when you see him depicted in art, he's often wielding a sword or a spear, and that is a symbol representing his role as the angelic leader in spiritual battles. We heard about that already. That's just kind of why he's here. His ruling planet is the sun, and he's not connected to any zodiac sign, but is linked to the fifth chakra, the throat. And I think that's interesting, because usually if your throat chakra is blocked, you're not speaking your truth, or someone's restricting your speech in some way. So it takes a lot of strength to speak your truth, doesn't it? Michael says, my energy is powerful and it is available to you. This is what he said to me. You must ask for my help. Call me and I will be with you. You will feel my energy and gain strength from my presence. Courage is to be had simply by my standing by your side. That's been so true for me. I want to remind all of you, if you're here live on the show and you want to ask a question, use that raise your hand feature, which you can go down to the bottom menu. There's a reaction button. Click on that and then raise your hand. Or honestly, I'll see you if you just literally raise your hand. If you're shy, you can ask your question in the chat room. If you want to share a story about Archangel Michael, whether it's yours or someone you know, that would be absolutely welcome too. So people have asked me, why should I, what are reasons I would call on Archangel Michael? So I really put some thought to this, and it's kind of like 5 major categories. And the ones that I see is releasing fear and worry. And that's a big one right now. That's one pretty much most people are having. If they're not afraid of what's happening on a worldwide level, they're afraid and anxious about what's happening in their personal life. For most people, it's both right now. Another one is battling the forces of darkness, whether it's in a person who's being toxic and evil, or it's literally the dark, evil attacking you in some way. If you need courage and strength, who doesn't need courage and strength? I mean, you can be a pillar of strength, and there are some moments and some situations that just stymie you, that you feel frozen and you don't know what to do. And if you don't act in some way, you stay frozen. So if you feel like you're frozen, stuck in a rut, what you need to do and you're afraid to do it, whatever that may be, Archangel Michael's a great one to call on for that. Another one is being afraid or concerned for your safety. A lot of times I'm dealing with women who are in very toxic relationships, sometimes physically abusive, but always they're the ones I'm talking about it is at least emotionally, verbal, spiritual abuse. That's as damaging to you as physical abuse. Having gone through it myself, lengthy, I know that that's true. It just takes longer to heal than bruises or broken bones do. So if you're in that situation and until you can extricate yourself from it and save yourself, call in Archangel Michael when you're afraid. Doesn't matter. Even if I'm going to give you a situation. Sometimes people don't think in this direction, but having lived it, I do. Let's say you have a spouse who you know, or boyfriend girlfriend, who's going to come home and start causing problems, and they're going to be hard on you. They're going to say mean things. They're going to try to make you feel bad. You hear them pull up in the driveway. That is a really good time to call in Archangel Michael to help you stand in your strength and find your voice and mostly get the courage to get out of there. The fifth one would be support in making life changes. Again, you're thinking about leaving a relationship. You're thinking about getting married. You're thinking about having another child. You're thinking of a move. Whatever it is, people can be very afraid of change. And Terry Ann and I have been kind of exchanging emails on this topic on her post on Facebook recently, which is about how change is all around you. The one thing you can count on is change. Sometimes it's slow and insidious, and you don't realize how much things are changing until it's just like, oh, your eyes are open. You're like, oh, wow, that's the situation now. And sometimes it's literally in a split second. Those are harder to deal with. You don't have much time to work on it, but ask for Archangel Michael to help you. It could even be a life change that you are feeling motivated from within, that angelic push from within to do. And there's nothing wrong. Your angels are telling you, you know what, you need to change jobs. You need to start your spiritual career, whatever it is. Ask Archangel Michael for courage and strength. There's nothing, your angels are not going to be insulted. They're not going to be like, oh, we're not good enough. She's going after an archangel. She's calling in the big guns. Again, they all work as a team. They all have their role within the angelic realm. There's no ego in the angelic realm. So you're totally fine. Now, if you want to, when I say an invocation in regard to an archangel or an angel, it just means asking for their help, asking for their presence and their help. So when you do an invocation for Archangel Michael, there's some things you can do to make it more powerful, to make it more effective. Now, there's a lot of research behind this, but they say if you say one from Archangel Michael on a Sunday or a Wednesday, don't know why, can't find out why, but there's all kinds of information out there on reliable sites about it. And then I'm a big one for diffusing essential oils. It makes a big difference. I use them for medicine. I use them in food. I use them for setting a mood and especially for setting a feeling. I want people to feel comfortable and relaxed and at home. And certain blends do that. So for Archangel Michael, you wouldn't blend all of these together. It would be an overkill, but pick one or two you really like. Angelica, basil, cinnamon, frankincense, geranium, myrrh, peppermint, orange, or rosemary essential oil. So you just put a few drops and some water in a diffuser. Don't have it too close to you because you don't want to breathe too much of that in, but you should be able to smell a light scent of it, and that will help take you into the frequency of Archangel Michael, and it will make it easier for him to come in. And this is just something I wrote. You can put it in your own words. It's always best if you take these things and put them in your own words. This is merely starting point for you. So this is one that's just in general for Archangel Michael. Michael, I ask you to enter this space and connect with me energetically. I need your powerful assistance with, let's say, starting my new career, and ask that you direct your mighty angelic intensity toward empowering me. Replace my fear with your strength. Protect me and those I love. Please support me as I make this next change in my life. I thank you for honoring me with your presence and your divine assistance, Michael. So you always want to thank the angels. I mean, even when I'm doing readings for people for their personal angels, I nicely invite them in. I do all the spiritual protection. I have the diffuser going. Actually, I usually go through and spray Bulgarian rose oil through the room because it's a very high frequency. It's my favorite. It's what I wear. And then at the end, I always thank them for the honor of their presence. Thank you so much, because you feel it, and even if you don't think you're getting your request answered immediately, your frequency has been raised by the presence of an archangel or your angels. Who put that in there? Was that you? Do you want to say it out loud, Tarianne?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go for it.
So whenever I'm working with a client and I have a particularly difficult entity that I'm working on trying to remove, I always invoke Archangel Michael. And that's because one of my first experiences removing an entity from a client, it was really, really strong and really, really difficult. And he just popped in, cut that entity off, and I formed a ball of light around it and sent it to God's light. It was so powerful for me. That's how I really learned, from my experience, that I could call him in. Nobody had ever taught me that, but he taught me that. So I thought that was really awesome. That too, also, you just pay attention to those things that are going on around you.
100%. And that's interesting you say that, because as you're saying that, I'm getting this flashback. I'm not telling you this to frighten you. It doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. It happened to me because of certain circumstances in my life and my path. I was drawn to fight the dark early in my 20s. So it's not going to happen to you most likely, but I was living in a house that had a demonic entity, and it was doing things like it would open a portal above my bed. I'd see it open like this corkscrew of energy. And then one night, this gigantic claw came down through the top, and it was like a hand with 3 fingers and with very long claws. And it was getting closer and closer to me. And I'm trying to blast it with energy. And then the angels are coming in. And at the very last, I'm like, Archangel Michael, I need you right now. And there was like this gigantic clap of white light that just I couldn't even see anything for a few seconds, but that claw went right up. It was gone. The corkscrew portal there closed. There was no more of that happened. That was the end of that. So I was grateful, because that terrified me. I'm used to scary things, and that terrified me. So the last thing I thought of, I wish I probably would think of it first now. Yeah, call in your angels and ask for help, and you send it a big blast of energy to knock dark things away from you. But Archangel Michael's the big guns. He really is. So don't be hesitant to call him. And in case you're wondering, no, I do not want to engage with these things. No, I did not do anything to bring it in except shine my light and try to help people. And sometimes that's all it takes to draw the attention of the light. I mean, the dark, yeah, the light too, but the dark as well. And if you're meant to have to deal with the dark, if you're meant to be a spiritual warrior, you're going to have some experiences that other people won't. And it's partly, I think it gets you very strong. I'm not the same person I was before the 2.5 years in that house. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think I really stepped into my power and found resources I had no idea I had. And those kind of things just don't happen anymore. So just a heads up, in case some of you out there, I know more and more people are having trouble with dark attacks. You can call it evil attacks, call it demonic attacks, whatever you want to call it. It's from the same source, darkness. So just something for you. I don't want to not talk about these things, because that's not fair to those of you out there struggling who are really looking for some help. And I know what that's like. I don't want to leave you out there wondering what to do. So I want to talk about a few other things. Some other times when I called in Archangel Michael. And if either of you have story or a question or something, please let me know. But I was thinking last night about when I lived in Colorado, and I was married to a guy who was pretty much a sociopath, because he had no ability to feel emotions. He faked it pretty good till we were married. And his mother tried to warn me and told me that he doesn't feel things the way other people do, and that he can't give me what I need. And I just was so young. I didn't understand. I hadn't worked in mental health then. I forgive myself for making that mistake, because I am not my 19-year-old self. Boy, am I not my 19-year-old self. I've gotten a lot wiser, smarter. I see things faster. I sense things better. The red flags are just like, might as well be holding one and waving it for me now. But anyway, it was bad. And he moved me away from my family out of state to Colorado for a few years. And I had my daughter just before we did that. So we lived out in the country, and he was just so terrible. Just so verbally and mentally and emotionally abusive, and sometimes physically. But he just made me feel so like I was worthless, and I just didn't know what to do. I was at this place where I was like, I have a daughter with him. Should I take her away from her father? What do I do here? And I was dressed up. I don't even remember why, but I know exactly what I was wearing, because I made it. It was like a white skirt with heels and stockings, a peplum top that went over it, not terribly warm. And it was cool weather in Colorado. And so close to where we lived was the Colorado National Monument, which is like a mini Grand Canyon. And I like to go walking there, but I shouldn't have been walking there in high heels in muddy conditions. And I remember stalking close to the edge of that down the trail I usually walked, and I was walking fast, and all of a sudden the ground went out from under my right foot, and I'm hanging over the edge of this drop off, hanging on to the root of a tree, and nobody's around because it's raining, it's drizzling. Nobody's at the park at that time. Nobody was around me, and I'm screaming, crying, covered in mud, I was wearing off-white, remember, just covered in mud, dangling over this precipice. And I just started talking, I just begging, really, Archangel Michael, please help me, save me. The next thing I know, I'm just like standing back on the path. Yes, I'm still covered in mud. He did not magically clean my outfit, but I got in my car and I was shaking. Yet another moment in life where angels saved me, and I'm just shaking. And I got in my car and just sat, got warmed up a little bit, and drove home. And I remember he's all mad because, why are you so filthy? Rah, 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 rah. I never told him what happened. I just didn't want to share that with him. And he's deceased now, so he's not going to know it now either, unless, well, yeah, he will, but now he's much better, so it's okay. But the point being, there I was in a life or death situation. There's nobody around to help me, and no explanation, none. I'm telling you, if anything, I was thinking that little root was going to pull out of the ground next, because the dirt was disintegrating around everything. And it was just like a little miniature landslide there. So there's no explanation for that. It just boggles my mind when I think back on it. Some of the things I've experienced is part of why I ended up here, why I ended up focusing on angels in my work, why I write about it and talk about it and help people connect with their angels and pass on messages, because it's been shown to me more powerfully than I can adequately describe how effective it is and how incredibly important it is to keep that as a resource in our mind always. I wasn't anything special. I don't feel like I'm anything special now. I'm just me. I happen to have these gifts, but why did he choose to lift me? Well, maybe because I had a purpose. Number one, I have a little girl at that time who needed me desperately, and still does as an adult, but she needed me to be there for her and be a loving, caring, grounded presence for her through her life. And I was. And so that didn't get taken away from her. And I have a purpose, and here I am. It took me years to get here, and a lot of seemingly side tracks to do it, like long career in radio, a long career in mental health. It's like, and it seems so random, but I need all of that in the work I do now. So that's a story, a real story, another one about Archangel Michael that is just super powerful. But I really feel like we are underestimating things if we don't talk about everyday situations too. So let's say that you are in a place where a person is feeling very toxic to you. I'm going to pop a cough drop. Person's feeling toxic to you, and you can feel it in your upper stomach, your solar plexus chakra. It's starting to make you feel sick and uncomfortable, and you just want to get out of there, but you can't. You remember we talked about putting the bubbles of protection around you? You can actually ask Archangel Michael to put a bubble of protection around you for strength, courage, protection. Like that thing is Teflon. Nothing's getting through that. So keep that in mind, just in everyday little, it doesn't have to be life or death. I want to talk to you about a few other invocations and purposes for calling in Archangel Michael. And I'm going to put these on my blog so that you have them. And again, please not only feel free, but I encourage you to rewrite it into your own words that feels comfortable for you to say, that makes sense to you. Because if it doesn't, then you're never going to really resonate with it. You're not going to want to stick with that. So this one is an invocation for spiritual protection from Archangel Michael. Archangel Michael, please be by my side now and protect me from anything that is not of the light. Illuminate any darkness with your powerful protector energy. Blast it away from my body, my home, my property, and work. I ask that you put a protective bubble around me that the dark cannot penetrate. Help me tap into my own strength and stand strong against any forces of darkness which intend me harm, whether they are suppressing me, hurting me, or holding me back, or stopping me from shining my light and helping others. I ask that you stop them before they affect me in the slightest. Let me walk in light, feeling your powerful protection around me at all times. Allow that to give me courage and faith that darkness will always be overcome. Help me to trust that I am guided and guarded always, and I welcome your mighty warrior energy. If you sense darkness around me or aimed at me, I invite you to enter and repel them on my behalf. Archangel Michael, thank you for your presence and your powerful spiritual protection. Some of that may not be relevant to you. So you can just kind of edit out the parts that you're like, that's not happening for me. You don't need to have it in your invocation. One that's for physical protection. And again, these just kind of go back to what I was talking about at the early part of the show, the specific purposes that Archangel Michael has when it comes to helping humans. And so I just wrote some invocations for each one of those. So this one's for physical protection. Archangel Michael, God's great warrior, please be with me now and protect me from all harm. Help me to overcome my fear and step into my power. Let me leave a sense of victimhood behind as I face my foe, knowing that I have your mighty archangel protection with me. Please help me to take any action necessary to protect myself and those who rely on me to protect them. Let me shake the freezing bonds of fear and do what must be done to end this situation as quickly as possible. I ask that you surround me in a bubble of protection that provides me with your strong energy at all times. Help me to see clearly how I ended up in this situation so that I may make clear plans to leave it. Please give me strength to do what is necessary so that I may conquer my fears. I ask that you intervene on my behalf and protect me during this time as I cannot do it alone. Archangel Michael, thank you for your presence and your powerful warrior protection. And I should tell you, all of you watching, listening, I know you're mostly listening, you are welcome to tape my show. You can get a recording of it online. You can listen to the podcast and record that. I have no problem with that. I want you to use this material. I think that physical protection one is a really big one. It's probably the category most people think of when they think of Archangel Michael. They think of him protecting people, and he does. I have heard some amazing stories, and it's even as people were in a terrible accident where their car began to flip. This was a client of mine, at least one, maybe two. And they immediately called in Archangel Michael and their angels and asked them to just surround them in this bubble, that bubble that can't be penetrated. It's not just for darkness, it can't be penetrated. And so the car flipped and flipped, and they had to use the jaws of life to get them out of the car. And the person had not a scratch or bruise on them. And they said that as they were being flipped around in this car, they felt like a gel around them, like a bubble, a gelled bubble around them, cushioning. They never touched anything hard. They never hit against metal or the dashboard or anything that could have hurt them. And the medical personnel all said that's impossible. The car, there wasn't enough room left in there for you to not be dead or mangled. And yet, okay, it's not impossible because there's the person that was calling in Archangel Michael. So that's how powerful it is. I haven't experienced that, and God willing, I never have a flip over, rollover accident. I don't want to test it. I'm just putting that out there right now. I do not need any more tests of Archangel Michael or any other angels. I totally believe that you are powerful. But keep that in mind. You know, you don't have to be in an accident. There's a lot of things. So I actually had somebody tell me they were really terrified of going to a dentist. I can relate to that. I've had a bad experience. So they were at the dentist, and the procedure, they couldn't get more Novocaine, and it was hurting more than they expected it to. And the dentist was like, I can't give you anything more. They thought, what the heck? They were desperate and they needed to get the procedure finished. They could not leave it alone. So they called in Archangel Michael for courage and strength. But what happened was the pain just went like dropped down to, they could feel it, but it wasn't intolerable in the least. And then they finished the procedure. It was all over. Like, I wouldn't have even thought of calling him in for that, but it makes sense. That's what I'm talking about. The everyday aspects of this is too many people think it has to be life or death or some big momentous thing. But your life, you know, why would you suffer more than you need to when you got angels and archangels there to help you? So there you go with that one. Invocations for life purpose guidance. This is a big one. Terry Ann and I both work together, and lots of people come to us like, what am I supposed to do with my life? I know I have a mission, but I don't know what it is. And so we're guiding them. It's not, usually we can't just tell them. It's very seldom you can tell somebody, oh, you're going to be an EMT. You're going to be a psychic. You know, no, it doesn't work like that. We guide them through the journey of self-discovery because that's what it has to be. However, here's one you can talk to Archangel Michael for this because he is helpful with us. Archangel Michael, I ask that you be with me as I search for my life purpose. I have a strong knowing that I am here with a purpose, and it is time for me to find it. Help me to explore the things that I'm passionate about and discover new passions, which may be my true purpose in life. Please help me to be open to your guidance that comes in spoken messages, signs, and inner pushes. Let me be open and flexible with this process, understanding that my purpose is best found when I go with the flow and stop trying to figure out the destination. Help me to be responsive to the guidance you and other archangels give me so that I may take action as quickly as possible. Remind me that the faster I recognize your guidance and act on it, the faster I am likely to discover my purpose in this world. Let me proceed with curiosity, excitement, and joy. Archangel Michael, thank you for your presence and your sure guidance on my quest to find my life purpose. Next thing I'm going to talk about is something I know I'm going to be writing a book about this at some point because it will not get out of my head, but I know you, just because your mission, okay, for a while my mission was working in mental health. And I absolutely, like a long time, it was working in mental health and I really loved it. And I thought I would be there, especially because I reached the pinnacle I could reach and was in the best job I'd ever had, loved everything about it. I thought I'd retire from that position. Then my angels said, Ivory, it's time for you to move to Sedona. You're going to open a business. You're going to do your work under your name and use your face. And I'm like, oh, what? I was, director of mental health across the mountain in this county. That was a really hard thing for me to do because I'd been doing psychic work a long time and healing work a long time, but never letting anybody at work except one friend know that I did that, because I would have lost my job, would have lost my career. They're not open to that as a rule. So that took enormous courage for me. I had to do a lot of praying. I definitely called in Archangel Michael, please help me make this move. I know I need to make. I could feel the truth of it, even though I didn't want to leave my mental health career. I could feel the truth of it. And Terry Ann, I know you understand what I'm saying here. I know you do, because I met you when you were going through a similar situation. Sometimes it's just really scary what your angels tell you to do. You know it's right. You know you're supposed to. And when they tell you, now there's no mistaking it. You can't go, oh, I didn't know, because they're telling you. But it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it feels natural to you. It doesn't mean you're ready to do it. But they know so much happening behind the scenes, we will never know, which is why it's important to listen to their guidance. So the point being, I thought my mission was mental health for years and years. Then it was something else. And I see a lot of clients who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s who have been doing art that's spiritual related. For instance, they've been art or a musician or a nurse or a doctor, a surgeon. And now they're hearing they're supposed to go do something more spiritual. They're supposed to use their spiritual gifts in a very clear, defined way that scares them. You know, they hadn't thought about it. They never planned to do that. Neither did I. I ran from it for decades. So the point being, missions change. Just like friendships can change. Sometimes you're friends with somebody and it feels like, oh, this is going to be forever. And then it reaches a point where you just gently part, and it's okay. You know, you do it with blessings for one another and it's all right, but you can just feel like that time has ended. Same happens with jobs. Same happens with missions. So if you've been guided to do one thing and then you're guided to do something else, I'm going to give you an instance, even within the spirituality. First, I did healing and psychic readings. Then I was guided, you need to do your angelic readings for people. Then it was, you need to do mediumship. Then it was, you need to focus primarily on angels. You know, all of this is not stuff I just like decided to do. It's the way I was guided. So this next one is for those of you who are in a mission, who worked a mission, or you are working a mission, and you're feeling an inner push that there is something else, or you're being pushed to something else specific. Maybe you're freaking out about it. It's natural. It's very natural. The earlier you start your mission, the more likely you'll have another one. Go with the flow, right? Go with the flow. So here's when you can say, when you know you've got that push, you can feel like you're supposed to do something else now. Archangel Michael, please be with me now as I seek the next phase of my life purpose. I see now that missions morph, and mine is doing so now. Lately, I feel less passion for my current work and understand that I am being led to something different. Help me to find my new purpose as quickly as possible. Let me be open and flexible as I follow your guidance. Please help me to be positive about moving into something new, even though I'm nervous about it. I ask that you help to see my changing life purpose as a new, exciting adventure. Give me trust in the guidance I receive and the knowledge that there is a greater purpose in everything, though I cannot always see it. Help me to discern how everything I have done has prepared me for the next step in my life purpose. Let me find it and step into my new work with passion and determination. Archangel Michael, thank you for your presence and your guidance toward the next phase of my life purpose. Sometimes people freak out a bit, and I'm kind of compare it to, and I've got clients this has happened to, and a family member. So let's say you trained extensively for a medical career. Let's say you trained to be a nurse, and 15, 16 years in, you're hearing, you're supposed to do something with your spiritual gifts. You're supposed to do something for a living with your spiritual gifts. And you're like, but I spent all that time. I've got a good career. I built this up. I have a reputation. What's going to happen? Do you trust your angels or don't you? Do you trust where you're led or don't you? So you got to come to a point where you trust. That's like, and how do you get that? How do you get that level of trust? By listening to what your angels say, following their advice on some of the smaller things, and see what happens. Even if it's scary, it takes you to the place you're meant to be. And you might not see that right away. Very often we don't see that right away. But later, there'll be some epiphany moment where I know for me, I was like, oh, I didn't have a wacky career path working in radio and then mental health and now this. No. I had a talk show on radio. I wrote commercials. I voiced commercials. I did TV commercials through that work. That career helped me to have a podcast show later, helped me to write blog posts later. Working in mental health, I never left the field of mental health. I still do a lot of counseling. I help people whose children have mental health issues and they want some spiritual counseling mixed with psychic insights, angelic insights mixed with that. It never stops. So I took the way I did mental health to a different area. I still do it in a different way. And it's interesting because so many people feel comfortable talking to me and bringing their children, and usually it's older children, to me for help, but they wouldn't take them to a therapist, or they have, and it didn't go anywhere. Sometimes the problem is not just a chemical imbalance. Yes, I believe in that. And I believe medication can be super helpful when you need that. But sometimes there's these underlying issues that brought it to a head or making it worse, where there's trauma involved. And I really like to help people with their trauma to work past that, to leave it behind. But the point being, you could easily be led to another phase of your life purpose or your mission, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing, your life path. So life path is really more about just the path laid out before you, but a mission and a life purpose are the same thing. You can just different words to use it. So I hope that hearing more about Archangel Michael, just knowing he's so well known around the world, there are few religions that do not include Archangel Michael in some way. Isn't that comforting? Because it's not the construct of a particular religion. If every religion, or the major ones around the world, include Archangel Michael, then it gives you more confidence that this is a real thing. I see Archangel Michael. I feel Archangel Michael. The most powerful scene of him was when I left my last relationship, which was very, very toxic for me. And I decided to come up here to Sedona and stayed for a week in a really nice resort. And I asked for a room far away from other people. It was off season because I expected to do a lot of loud crying. And I did, but not in the way I was thinking. So the first night I was there, my angels came in and I saw them and I felt them. And then this incredible, intense energy came in and I saw the royal blue, and it was Archangel Michael, and it just filled up that room, a huge room from floor to ceiling, wall to wall. And there was this grid, like a thin black grid going in each directions through the royal blue light. And that whole thing stayed there while he was with me. And I felt something happening, like in my chakras, like I could feel it through my whole body, opening things, healing things, giving me strength, because I was in process of getting out of that relationship and it was scary. And I had given up a lot for that relationship, which always makes it a little harder. So after that, that's how I've always seen him. He doesn't always have the grid. Sometimes I see him as a really huge, huge figure, but he's always that royal blue. So, others may see him differently. I don't know why it is, and I don't care. It doesn't matter, because you just need to identify who and what you're seeing if that's important to you. If you see it often enough, you're talking to Archangel Michael and suddenly an immense energy comes in, and most people will feel it, like it'll make you vibrate like this. almost like you're terrified, but you're not. You know, it's an incredibly beautiful light, beautiful moment happening. There's nothing evil in this. You can feel it in your soul that this is just an incredible moment, and yet you're shaking. So it's your frequency reacting to the high frequency of an archangel. So do a little experimentation with this. Remember how I told you that if you want to see angels, turn off your light, relax your vision, do nice calm breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. And as you do that, talk to Archangel Michael. Ask Archangel Michael to come in and show himself to you. And if you don't see him right away, that's okay. And if you do, try to stay relaxed. Remember, if you sit up, you get excited and you try to focus your eyes, the light will disappear, but it'll still be there. They generally don't pop in and pop right back out. So just relax your vision, breathe calmly, and it'll be there again. And so I'd love to hear how he appears to you. I'm fascinated. I don't feel ever that my experience needs to be your experience, but I do share mine with you just as something to begin with, a little starting point. So thank you so much for joining me today to learn more about Archangel Michael. Please like my show, follow it on the podcast platform so you don't miss anything. Next Sunday, we'll be covering angel numbers. And what that is clear signs from the angels. There's messages in those numbers. I'm going to discuss some of the primary, most seen numbers and give you a wonderful, just a great website that you can use, the one that I use too, that the angels love for this, so that you can use it as a reference anytime you start seeing repetitive numbers. Come back next Sunday. In the meantime, may your angels surround you. May your angels protect you every moment of every day.